All right, let's get her started. A preamble. Polymatter. So, okay. I'm going to say the thing that I normally say. I haven't really engaged with Polymatter's content. But the sort of vibe that I immediately get from Polymatter, I guess for like politics matter, whatever. Um, the vibe that I mostly get from this content creator is it's very sort of like um Vice documentary slash what's the name of that one guy, that Johnny guy that like Hassan reacts to all the time or something. I don't remember his name. He's like a liberal and he talks about politics or something, but he's like a left liberal. I don't remember his name. Whatever. Or like the sort of like Vox style videos, which are they're fine videos. Like I have no qualms and no problems with them. It's just like, that's like shit that's like analyzed from like a liberal frame or lens, or like maybe like left liberal sort of progressive stances, generally speaking. So we have here a video about how China is killed Hong Kong's economy. So my immediate assumption here is that this is probably going to be talking about the Hong Kong protests in 2019. Something that got all the Dengists mad because, hey, guess what? It turns out if randomly judiciously extraditing people to mainland China, a lot of people don't like that. I would like to also say that, like, immediate fucking question to like Marxist Leninists and tankies, because like here's the thing. I understand that they're the ones who aren't gonna get like extrajudiciously like extradited anywhere to like by like any particular court or whatever, because they do that fucking good gluck, that good suck of the party line boot. So they know they're probably gonna be okay. Literally the same shit constantly fucking happens in America. um Honestly, like constantly like having problems when like random Palestinian protesters are getting black bagged by ICE or whatever the fuck. You have a big problem with that, which is correct. You should have a problem with that, but not a problem with people who express like sort of seditious, and whatever seditious means in the mind of like Xi Jinping can be fucking anything, to be honest. You don't have really as much of a problem with that, but you have a problem with that when America does it. Seems like a little bit of a double standard, but again, American diabolism, shit like that. I'm not gonna lie, socialism with Chinese characteristics are pretty racist expressions ML's invented to describe the PRC. It's Orientalist. Like, if we're talking about political philosophy, it shouldn't have any particular like nation's characteristics, right? Marx wasn't describing socialism with Bavarian characteristics. He was talking about socialism and communism, a different way to express the economy. They have a problem when a Uyghur person or a Chinese dissident who wants actual socialism speaks up. Oh, all the fucking time. But then again, it's because these people, they don't actually fucking give a shit about like socialism or communism. It's all just, again, it's all lunch table fucking dumb fuckery with these people. They don't care about anything. Anyway, let's get into it.
This is a $167,000 parking space. What's special about it? Honestly, not much. It's a single
That's US dollars, right? Is that US dollars? 167K for a parking spot. That's fucking nuts, bro.
by 16-foot slab of concrete in a frankly not very
Yeah,
happening
Bugatti
part of
ass
town.
parking.
But hey, that's why it's so affordable. Other, better slabs of concrete have sold for as much as $1.3 million.
What? Bro. That's fucking wild, man. Trying to think, how much is a parking space where I'm at? I'm trying to think, like, just in comparison with like my apartment building. We have nice underground parking here. It's climate controlled, very very nice. I mean, Hong Kong is super dense, but not as dense as Dhaka or Mumbai. How much is a parking space in Dhaka or Mumbai? Boy meets many. A parking space here, I'm trying to think how much it would be, like, per month. Maybe like $100? Maybe? It's all included in the condo fee. Because those are like the services that the building are supposed to provide you, right? So it's all included, right? So that's not like really something that's like thought about. You know, it gets paid along with all the utilities and everything. That's what the condo fee is typically for. Utilities, parking, you know, the basic amenities that exist within a building. But 1.3 million, dude. That's fucking wild, bro.
Welcome to the crazy world of Hong Kong real estate, where even modest 400 square foot studios go for 7 figures. And that's not even the craziest part.
Wild.
The funniest thing about that $167,000 parking space is that it's mere steps away from this, miles and miles of untouched jungle.
That's really fucking sick, though, I'll be honest. The fact that there's a bunch of just jungle around Hong Kong. But, I mean, as the video probably... Well, I am a dirty pre-watcher. Definitely gets into. There's a reason why this is the case, basically. You know, why there's all the jungle all around the city, and it's really difficult to get access to land. It was kind of purposefully designed that way.
Is that garage, and this all around it is a whole lot of nothing. Clearly, there's no shortage of land. In fact, 75% of the city's entire surface is completely empty, occupied only by wild boars, snakes, and monkeys. Developers would kill to sprinkle these mountains with 60-story high-rises as far as the eye can see. But they can't. The government owns every inch of land, and it only makes a measly 25% of it available to anyone but the monkeys. Needless to say,
I'm going to make an assumption, and that it's not because the PRC wants to preserve the monkey population. I don't think that's the case. I highly doubt that is the case. The most expensive parking spot I found in Mumbai is $50K, and it's in a building where super wealthy people live by the ocean. Plus, it fits 2 to 3 cars. Exactly. I think it's because it's not. By the way, it's for capital investment. What the PRC generally wants is they want a lot of foreign capital to come in to buy land in Hong Kong. That's why they want to have like this sort of like this plot of land. They make it basically as hard as possible to try to get this land, because again, it's a vestige for investment. Again, for all those like motherfucking like dumbass like tankies and Marxists and stuff. Marxists, people who pretend to be Marxists. You should have a big problem with stuff like this. You know, the state basically running auctions to wealthy bourgeois owners, trying to bid off like small portions of the land to the highest fucking foreign investment that's willing to bid for it. You should have a problem with stuff like this. But you know, Hong Kong doth protest the Great Party of China, so I don't know. Or rather, Hong Kongers do that.
It does this out of love for money, not monkeys. The goal is to inflate prices by artificially reducing the supply of land,
Where have we seen
Each
this
year,
before?
the government puts a tiny, I can't stress this enough, tiny sliver of the other 75% up for auction, which it sells to the highest bidder. Last year, for
Where have we seen
example,
stuff
just
like this before?
0.013 square miles were put on the market, or 0.003% of the total. That's in a city of over 7 million people. This was the only new land available in all of crowded Hong Kong.
I'm curious, because this is just like a potential hypothetical question I just have in my brain. Could this be also as like a way for the party, for like the Communist Party of China to essentially try to sort of squeeze out the people of Hong Kong to make their life as hard as possible, to make them become more one with the homeland, right? Because right now the sort of standard is still what, one party, two systems. But as the video gets into with the recent Hong Kong, protests, which lasted about a year. That was about a year. And then COVID happened, and then like the Communist Party of China essentially put in this secret court to basically delineate what are national security threats. Where have we seen stuff like this before? And like no one in Hong Kong has a say to that? Damn, I didn't know that it was okay for the People's Republic of China to also do their own sort of like patriot surveillance state on the city of Hong Kong, and not let the people there express their own free democratic will. I wonder why. Wonder why they do that. Curious.
For the entire year. Unsurprisingly, then, even this minuscule amount sold for nearly $1 billion. That's 100%
crazy.
of which went right back in the government's pocket. With a stroke of a pen, it effectively created $1 billion out of thin air.
Oh, that's just the genius of Dengis policy right there. Genius as always. Glory to our glorious leader, Xi Jinping, making $1 billion basically out of nowhere. It's fucking crazy. Honestly, because like people would actually like unironically fucking say that. It's ridiculous.
It turns out having a monopoly on land in the most land-constrained city on Earth is a pretty lucrative gig. So lucrative, in fact, that it can get away with some of the lowest tax rates on the planet. Its highest income tax rate, reserved only for the absolute richest of the rich, is just 16%, compared to 45% in Japan, 37% in America, or 24% in Singapore. And the average Hong
Kong seems like a tax haven for China's billionaires. Boy meets many. What if I were to tell you the video quite literally gets into that? Because it's not only a tax haven for China's billionaires, it's also a haven for fucking dissidents. Because of how the system works there, a lot of dissidents of the party also tend to go to Hong Kong to seek, well, some form of asylum. To try to get away from, well, the party that's trying to, like, hunt them down for expressing dissent. It's fucking ridiculous.
Konger pays far, far less. About 2%. There's no sales tax, no capital gains, or even inheritance. Now, there are dozens of tax havens around the globe, from the Cayman Islands to Bermuda, but they're designed for the comfort of money, not people. None offers anywhere near the public services of Hong Kong. Only there do you get Japanese or European-level public transit, universities, and healthcare for Cayman Islands prices. That's a compelling offer, especially when your employer covers housing, which is why thousands of successful mid-career bankers, lawyers, and accountants in London, New York, and Houston wake up one day, pack their bags, and move their entire families thousands of miles away.
I wonder why all these like bourgeois mid-level people are constantly moving to over here. There couldn't be any particular reasoning. It couldn't be because of those very low tax rates. Couldn't be because of the fact that China basically created a fucking tax haven in their fucking backyard. But I thought, like, China was like a glorious socialist emporium. Like, what was going on here? They allow stuff like this to happen? That's a little weird, isn't it?
To live here. Many like it so much, in fact, that they never go back, unwilling to accept a lower quality of life for a higher cost. So that's the Hong Kong economic model. Severely restrict the supply of land, then sell it for extortionate prices, then use that revenue to support a world-class city despite dirt-cheap taxes.
It's crazy.
But there's still one
Should be fairly obvious how this is not a very sustainable model. Extremely obvious. And again, China's doing this for the behest of their own coffers. For the most part. I know it's like a little different because it's supposed to like go to the representatives that are supposed to like represent Hong Kong, so then they can like fund the budget of the city. But the executives that run the city of Hong Kong, those are picked by China explicitly. There's no elections in Hong Kong. They don't get to elect their leaders. That's picked by the Chinese Communist Party.
Missing ingredient. For this to work, someone has to keep buying all these $1,000,000 parking spots. It
That's
can't
true.
be
Also
locals
demand.
who are quite unfairly priced out of their own housing market. And it can't be expats. There simply aren't enough of them. Luckily, it has an almost bottomless source of demand right next door called China. When Beijing finally loses...
And just like you just said, Boy Meets Mini, this is a real estate bubble. For a long, long time, China's having a housing crisis. They are currently experiencing their own real estate bubble. A big one. We all know about like the ghost cities of China. Those are real. They exist. And a lot of real estate within China is quite prohibitively expensive. Hold on. I thought we were living in a socialist utopia. What do you mean? How is housing so unrestrictively expensive for your average Chinese citizen to be able to purchase? That's a little strange. Why is that? Because again, it's almost as if it's not socialist. China is anything but socialist, simply put. But that's CIA propaganda. Sure. You can quite literally look it up. You can look up the fucking ghost cities that exist. They've been documented. It's ridiculous. Like, China ghost cities. Under-occupied developments in China. There's a ton of these. In 2009, Al Jazeera journalist Melissa Chan reportedly came across the newly built Kangbashi district during a separate assignment. Though approximately 30,000 people lived in the area, she described it as empty and labeled it as a ghost town. That's Al Jazeera that's reporting it. That's not U.S. funded. That's funded by Qatar. Qatar doesn't really have a reason to make China look as bad as possible. Yeah, Ordos is what it's called. And there's been more. In 2015, a photographer named Kai Kmemer also photographed one of these things. 2021 Business Insider reported that in 2020, China had about 65 million empty homes. I wonder why there might be a big real estate bubble currently in China. I couldn't possibly think of any particular reasonings. Also, I'm going to relate this immediately to Canada. In Canada, we have a really bad housing crisis. You want to know why? Guess who buys up a lot of our fucking luxury condos and fucking developments? Chinese billionaires. A lot of foreign investment has gone into a lot of Canadian housing developments. And a lot of them are prohibitively expensive because, again, they act as, speculative real estate assets. There's also a bunch of Indian billionaires as well. I can't believe that Boy Meets Minnie's people is fucking destroying our housing market. Why would you do this, Boy Meets Minnie? Why are all these damn Brahmins fucking wrecking our shit, bro? What the fuck, man? That's kind of fucked up, man. What did we even do? We're a part of the Commonwealth. Like, what the fuck, man? We also had to deal with British colonialism. Bro, what the hell? Yeah, real. So real.
Loosened its grip on the economy in the 1980s, it instantly created an enormous amount of wealth right on Hong Kong's doorstep.
True.
Some 800 new Chinese billionaires and countless more millionaires were minted between 2000 and 2018 alone.
Wait, I thought billionaires weren't supposed to exist in a socialist society. What's going on, Marxist-Leninists? What's going on? I thought this was your men's.
Was extremely anxious, and for good reason. As these entrepreneurs would soon learn, the Chinese government would now let you get rich, but there was no guarantee it would let you stay rich. Much has changed in China over the past 40-odd years, to say the least, but this much decidedly has not. Your company can employ hundreds of thousands of people. It doesn't matter. In 2021, the $100 billion private tutoring industry was wiped off the earth with a stroke of a pen.
So I'll be honest, generally speaking, this is an objectively good thing for the Chinese Communist Party to do. The problem is why the fuck is this able to come into existence in the first place? They don't, it's not because of, they don't give a shit about, the for-profit schooling system. They're probably more afraid of, since the profit motive is going to be the main thing that drives that private schooling forward, they're probably going to be more concerned about what the curriculum is, and they're not going to have, a sort of control on the curriculum. Because, again, the state of China has a lot of control over what is taught in the schooling system in China. Because again, just like any other conservative government, everything has to be maintained and perfectly controlled to maintain the hierarchy. First and foremost, what is the first order principle of all fucking conservatives? Maintenance of hierarchy. And in the case of the Chinese Communist Party, it's making sure that the hierarchy of the party always being on top is maintained. So that means schooling also has to be heavily controlled by the party.
You can accumulate astronomical wealth. It doesn't matter.
Sure, they disappear billionaires. Based. Great. They're not doing it for altruistic reasons, right? They'll disappear people just because they don't like policies within the party. They're not doing it because they exist. They're doing it because they're bad-mouthing the party. That's why they do it. There's nothing objectively good about that. Not really. The basis for as to why they're doing it is because, again, all about maintenance of the hierarchy. If these guys were actually socialist, guess what? Their wealth would be gone. But it's not. That's a little weird.
Jack Ma, formerly China's richest man, was disappeared for saying vaguely disparaging things about the government. Once. You can even keep your head down and be a good, loyal, low-level bureaucrat.
That's true.
But it doesn't matter. Public employees have been ordered to return their end-of-year bonuses during economic downturns. As long as your money stays within its borders, it can always be taken back. So, what do you, a Chinese supermarket or property mogul, do? You run. And
True.
where do you go?
Capital
Somewhere
flight.
safe. Somewhere with the rule of law. Somewhere with free and independent judges that respect private property and due process. Well, Hong Kong had all of that. And it had incredibly low taxes. And it had an incredibly strong real estate market. And it was just a stone's throw away. And there was a good chance the person selling you that $1 million parking space even spoke the same language. It was a match made in heaven.
Literally, this is all by design. As you just said, Boy Meets Mini. In the agreements that I believe, well, I mean, it's kind of the byproduct of a lot of the agreements that the British and the Chinese had, right? As they handed over the island to try to maintain the system. But the thing is like, if you continue to crack down in the ways that they crack down, this is inevitably what's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that as a defense for the fucking billionaires, right? There are more effective ways to go after the fucking billionaires. I'm mostly using this as a vestige to show, like, China's not fucking socialist. They categorically speaking are not. There's a reason why a lot of people say that, honestly, you can sort of analogize the CCP to a fascistic party. Because again, what is their first order principle? It's all about maintaining that hierarchy of the party being on top. First and foremost. That is what they care about. And so guess what? They just made a fucking tax haven, literally right by their shore. And if they try to go into it to try to crack down, there tends to be problems with that. Because guess what? The people of Hong Kong, you know what they wanted? They always wanted to maintain their independence from China. Unfortunately, as a result of the Hong Kong protests and the fucking secret national security corp being established that no one voted for, no one wanted, guess what? Their autonomy has essentially been taken away from them. Because like I said before, the CCP can just claim, like, you're being seditious, you're going to jail, or we're going to extradite you to the fucking mainland for our courts to deal with you. And I say again, what if this was happening anywhere in the West? Well, I mean, it happens now in the West, thanks to Donald Trump, who's a clear fascist. But you don't have a problem with it when China does it. Imagine if Joe Biden did this. Did shit like that. Establish a secret national security court. Trump hasn't even done that yet. He just uses ICE to basically deport anyone he doesn't like. It's a lot more blatant in comparison to, say, China, who has, like, secret fucking courts. But a lot of fucking totalitarian, authoritarian regimes have used secret courts constantly to go after political dissidents and enemies. All the time. And people who can be, like, broadly twisted into being like, oh yeah, there's a dissent against the party from this guy. Time to get rid of this guy. It's all over the news. And I just have to ask these people, what if Trump or like, not Trump, because Trump's already doing this. What if, like, Biden or Obama did stuff like that? You wouldn't fucking hear the end of it from these people if they were to do shit like that. They probably have done shit like that, but with, like, a really complicated sort of, like, legal premises and reasoning behind it. But guess what? In China,
fake news.
In China, you can just get, like, randomly black-bagged, sent to a different court because you're fucking, quote-unquote, yeah, you're saying something that's against national security interests. We're gonna have to kidnap you and interrogate you. Crazy. And then these people are okay with China doing it. Okay, dude. Sure, man.
Chinese elites got a safe place to stash their cash outside the mainland, and Hong Kong got insanely rich off land sales. Now, the key to all this, the only reason it worked was that Hong Kong
what's
was
up, Sam?
caught in a strange political limbo. There are countless free democracies around the world, and there are countless more unfree autocracies.
True.
The two, freedom and democracy, so often go hand in hand that it feels strange to even say this. But Hong Kong, uniquely, was stuck somewhere in between. It had freedom without democracy. Its government has never been directly accountable to the public. During British rule, London appointed
Strange,
a
isn't it?
governor. Then, after the 1997 handover, Beijing effectively began appointing a chief executive. This was a necessary ingredient to its economic model because if it were a democracy, voters would, quite sensibly, pressure their representatives to solve the housing crisis.
Oh, strange, isn't it? Wait, I thought we cared about the will of the proletariat. Yet we can have unelected fucking bureaucrats just do whatever the fuck they want? Curious. Wait, I thought we cared about what the proletariat wanted. There's a reason why Marx often talked about how it is important for the people to be able to participate in their civic systems. Because guess what? You can have shit like this. Random fucking dumb fuck party officials just being faffing about, doing whatever the fuck they want. And guess what? There's now a fucking big real estate housing crisis within Hong Kong, within the rest of China. But it's too lucrative for the Communist Party itself. So are they going to do anything about that? Maybe if it causes a complete collapse in the economy, they will probably do something about it then. But right now, it's a little too lucrative for them, so why should they? We already know there's like millions of no houses. Like people have unoccupied houses. And there's a housing problem in the fucking country. Okay. Damn, it's almost as if all of this being in the private hands of a state party, which vanguardism is, it's just another way of expressing the private ownership of the means of production. Is just through a state apparatus rather than private hands. It's almost as if that's still like capitalism in nature. Strange.
And if they did, if land became plentiful, the whole system would collapse. The government would lose this source of revenue. Yet, despite its lack of democracy, Hong Kong was relatively free. Money, ideas, and people moved in and out of the territory nearly unimpeded.
Amazing.
When dissidents were driven out of the mainland, they often fled to Hong Kong, where they could speak their minds. There was no great firewall. Professors had academic freedom.
And this is quite literally the byproduct of the one party, two systems, right? Because that's the sort of model that, again, was agreed to between the British and the Chinese, right? When the handing back of that territory in 1997 occurred. We all know this, right? So, broadly speaking, because the British were there for so long, Hong Kong significantly westernized, right? And the British helped develop quite a lot of Hong Kong. And Hong Kong, because you can just go there now, you can see a lot of like the vestiges of like British culture that still remain within Hong Kong. Like, you know, the tea, the sort of all the like scones and crumpets and all that fucking shit. You know, we all know the fucking meme, right? The vestiges of like Britain still heavily remain within Hong Kong. And as a result, that's why it's developed in the way that it's developed. Because, obviously, since the UK are allies with the US, we're allies with like the Japanese and the rest of the Europeans, helped give a lot of assistance and development to Hong Kong. Because it was a part of the British Empire. And the British Empire obviously invested in their colonies to develop them further. Crazy. And as a result, Hong Kong was significantly westernized, which makes sense why, when the handback happened, they didn't really want to have the same system as the Chinese. They were just like, we kind of like our own thing, so like, no. That's why the idea between like one party, two systems sort of existed, and why that sort of chief executive thing happened. Now, obviously, it's not a perfect solution, because I'm pretty sure most of the people of Hong Kong would have liked to have been able to elect their party leaders, elect people into places of office, so they could do something about the housing crisis. But again, the housing problems are making too much money for the Communist Party. So they're just like, I don't know if we want to really get rid of that. I don't know.
There were no capital controls, and corporations trusted its courts to be fair and independent to the tune of billions of dollars. This was necessary because if it wasn't free, investors would simply move their money elsewhere. The whole point of getting your money out of the mainland was to escape the party's control. And this truly one-of-a-kind combination, freedom without democracy, produced a truly one-of-a-kind city. 99% of cities around the world follow the same basic pattern because 99% are influenced by the same economic forces. Since building up is more expensive than building out, the convenience of the former only outweighs the cost for some people and industries. They inevitably cluster together in one or two pockets of density. This is the downtown core. The rest sprawl outward. Nature succumbs to the efficient use of land until the city is drained of all its color. But not in Hong Kong. Its shortage of usable land leaves no room for anything less than 100% efficiency.
I do have to say, it does look very nice with all the like, with the jungle in the background of the city. I do think that looks very nice. But we know why it happens. It's because the CCP wants the lucrative fucking real estate market. That's what they want overall. It's all about the money for the party in the end. It always comes back to fucking capital gain. That's all that matters. And Hong Kong is a grave vestige for, again, incentivizing foreign capital investment for that real estate bucks. Because guess who benefits from there? Well, not only the developers, but also the party. They're the ones who get the most benefit from it.
Quarter of the city is built up to its absolute limit, every inch of land accounted for and utility maximized. Meanwhile, the other 3/4 that...
It's also how the PRC controls South China Sea trade and maritime territory. That's also a very good point, Boy Meets Mini. It's for their own imperialistic gains. Because, Hong Kong, if I recall correctly, it's like right along the tip of on the southern parts of China, right? Map of China. Yup, it is on a tippy tip. Yep, there was a reason why the British wanted Hong Kong really badly. Yeah, let's not forget, there was the two opium wars that were fought over this. It's like literally right next to Shenzhen. And if I recall correctly, Shenzhen's like one of the biggest cities in China, right? It's almost as if it's like there to just like look over and make sure that like Hong Kong doesn't do anything too sussy, you know. I say that a little bit with a little bit of hyperbole. It's probably not exactly like that, but you know what, you get what I mean, you know. I know like nothing about Chinese politics, so feel free to talk to me like I'm stupid. Oh, you're good, Zane. You're good. Basically, we're talking about how when Marxist-Leninists talk about how China is communist, they're full of shit. They will establish secret courts in order to go after dissidents all the fucking time under the vestige of national security. Which, guess what? Every other fucking capitalist country has engaged in that behavior, especially authoritarian ones, all the fucking time. China very often represses a lot of its minority populations, like the Tibetans, the Uyghurs, all the fucking time, and will do imperialistic actions in order to justify more economic claim. Belt and Road Initiative is a perfect example of that, using economic coercion to satisfy their own sort of imperialistic gains. Because, like, I mean, it's even like what? I think it's like even fucking Lenin wrote about this. He talked about how like imperialism is the late stage of capitalism. China constantly doing imperialistic actions all across the world, trying to maintain control of the South China Sea for themselves. Oh, whoa, no way. Crazy.
That surround it remain frozen in time, green, pristine, untouched nature. The effect this creates is breathtaking. You get the extreme density of Midtown Manhattan directly adjacent to the extreme serenity of the Hawaiian jungle.
All across
and
Africa
you can peer
as well.
down at the former from the latter.
Not the Sri Lanka.
Hong Kong has more skyscrapers than New York, Chicago, Miami, and Houston combined.
I saw
far more than any other city on Earth. And it has the beach. And it has mountains. And it has clean, affordable, timely public transit to move between them.
You can see how this would be fantastic for speculative real estate investment. All of those amenities that were just described, the beach, great public transit, very easy to get around in Hong Kong. Why not invest and get a house there? Think about it. You could make a fucking killing with shit like that. Also, the mountains, you have nice places nice natural environments to hike around and shit. It's no fucking wonder that Hong Kong basically became a fucking tax haven right in the backyard of China.
Earlier, I joked that developers would love to sprinkle the jungle with 60-story high-rises. But that's not a joke. It's really what Hong Kong looks like. This is not a 3D render. It's actual footage of an apartment complex. And it's a 20-minute hike away from this incredible vista.
That does look nice.
In what other city do you get this view from a public bus? In what other city is the term urban jungle made so literal?
Bonky.
Nature and city colliding in such close proximity that wild boars invade train stations where white-collar professionals are commuting to work. What other city lets you escape the cubicle on your lunch break with a view like this? Of course, this is not without its drawbacks. At 300 square feet, this is roughly the average size apartment for two middle-class Hong Kongers.
Whoa, here's the main fucking consequence. Like, you get packed in like a fucking sardine.
This is the laundry room, this is the kitchen, and this, in case you missed it, is the bedroom.
Well, what do you mean? But this is what the glorious Maoist revolution would have wanted. Like, what do you mean? You have to let go of your bourgeois wants and decadencies, all for the good of the party. What do you mean, comrade?
Nothing about this is fair or compassionate.
And because by the way, the people who live in conditions like that, can they voice their opinions and try to do something about it? No. Not if they want to get extradited.
Real democracy would voters tolerate being squeezed into coffin-sized apartments while wild monkeys roamed freely across the remaining 75% of all land. All of this is to say, there's no other place quite like it because...
and I guarantee you, all those like tiny fucking that's where your average workers are, 1000%, just like this guy said. Middle-class Hong Kongers. I guarantee you, if you live in poverty, that's the little fucking tiny, like, sardine can that you're fucking living in. People, like, you know, there's, like, those videos of, like, the sort of, like, surreal, like, of, like, the New York apartments that, like, these motherfuckers constantly complain about. This is, like, the norm in fucking China. This is the norm. Crazy. Oh, but, like, dude, China's like the glorious socialist utopia. Like, what do you mean, bro? Come on, man. Sure.
There's no political system quite like it. And there's a reason. It's fragile. The people, for example, can exercise their freedoms to demand democracy. And that's exactly what they did. For a brief moment in 2019, there was hope that this paradox could be resolved by Hong Kong gaining democracy. That summer, 2 of its 7 million residents marched in the streets,
earlier,
protesting a proposed bill that would allow extradition to mainland China. Soon, this evolved into a broader pro-democracy movement. Miraculously, it managed—
Whoa, who would have thought that the people who live in Hong Kong didn't want the fucking party to exact way more fucking control, and that they wanted the fucking one party, two systems sort of model to be maintained. Crazy. Because broadly speaking, they know and they understand, like, what happens when China gains more and more control. People get randomly fucking black-bagged. I'm pretty sure these people, since, guess what, they have access to the broader internet, they know about the Uyghurs, the treatment of the Uyghurs by the Chinese. They know. They're probably not stupid. They're not unaware. They don't want the same thing to happen to them.
To sustain this momentum for nearly a year, holding major protests almost every weekend. But then, while the world was distracted by the pandemic, Beijing reacted, resolving the paradox, but not in the protesters' favor.
Whoa.
Instead, it exploited the absence—
Wait, you're telling me that the state, any given opportunity when its power is threatened, will always choose to crack down on the people? Say it ain't so. Crazy. Whoa. How? Wow. And, like, people think you're supposed to be, like, magnanimous for, like, shit like this? Why? Like, no. Ridiculous.
of democracy to dismantle Hong Kong's freedom. It foisted upon the city, without a single vote, a national security law, which outlaws the vaguely defined crimes of secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion.
Now where have
on
we seen
paper,
stuff like this
that's
before?
it. Hong Kong still has its own separate passport, currency, and legal system. Even the courts are still widely considered fair and independent. In fact, 6 British and Australian judges sit on its court of final appeal. The national security law doesn't change any of this. What it does do, however, is create a second parallel court system. And
I want, again, imagine if the US or the UK just created a random court without the approval of Congress, without the broader approval of the bully pulpit. They just made a random court out of fucking nowhere and started using it in order to go after people who are expressing terrorist sympathies. You would all be fucking outraged. But when the Chinese do it, it's like, huh? What? Huh? Oh, they're going after seditious people in Hong Kong? Oh, based. Glory be to Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party. Nothing. Incredible.
this one is most certainly not fair or independent. Its judges are hand-selected by the government. Its trials can be held in secret. And its police don't need search warrants. So, what qualifies as endangering national security? So far, reading a newspaper in public, publishing children's books, and wearing the wrong color shirt. In short, whatever the government decides.
Whoa, crazy.
Which means any person, any company, any property or bank account in the
Also, they get pissed when Zelensky rightfully does it against pro-Russian parties. That is also a great point, Boy Meets Mini. I wonder why Zelensky's going after all those fucking pro-Russian parties. Because he wants to, like, secure his own power? No, because those parties are advocating for the death of his fucking, for the conquering of his fucking country. That's why. Which, guess what? Broadly speaking, Ukrainians don't want. Crazy. Yeah, wearing the wrong shirt. What does that mean? I don't know. Literally. Like, imagine if you got put into jail for a shirt that said, "Hey, free Palestine." That can happen now, thanks to Donald Trump exercising his fucking authoritarian tendencies. But if, like, an Obama or a Biden were to do that, everyone would be fucking up in arms. But when the Chinese do it, nothing. Nothing. Fantastic.
Territory could be placed under Beijing's control. With neither freedom nor democracy, Hong Kong begins to look more and more like mainland China. And the more it looks like China, the less advantage it has over China. Why should you, a Chinese supermarket or property mogul, take your money to Hong Kong if it isn't any safer? You could just as easily escape the party's reach in Singapore, London, or Vancouver instead.
That's true.
Now, that alone would be bad enough. But it gets worse. Hong Kong is also caught in the middle of the US-China trade war. Its currency is pegged to the US dollar, meaning it's affected by high US interest rates.
We do love our trade agreements and shit like that, don't we? Don't we, folks? Our international trade and shit. It didn't even say anything. It was just the wrong color. Yeah, because, like, specific colors were used to voice support to the Hong Kong protests. That's why.
And it finds itself more dependent than ever on the Chinese economy at the exact moment its growth is slowing. Meanwhile, the city's best and brightest, its future workforce, is fleeing. Thousands of highly educated, high-earning, often English-speaking families have escaped China's grip by moving to the UK, Canada, or Australia. For all these reasons, demand for property has plummeted. One $77 million mansion, for example, recently sold at a 60% discount.
But now the economy is collapsing
demand,
because of the trade
course,
wars.
Means less revenue. Last year's land sales were the
is only
lowest
gonna
since
get
the
worse.
Great Recession. A tiny fraction of the $20 billion it collected just a few years ago.
Yeah, ain't no way.
In fact, 2 of the 5 auctions had to be cancelled after no one offered more than the minimum bid. Land used to pay for a third of the city's budget. Today, it barely makes a dent. The city has been running a deficit for all but one of the past 5 years. Which means sooner or later, it will either have to drastically reduce its spending or drastically raise its tax rate. Either it will lose its world-class public transit, healthcare, and universities, or it will lose its tax advantage. One way.
So, yeah. Ideally, because this is the sort of long play that the Chinese are trying to play, right? Like I said earlier, what do the Chinese really want? They want to fully incorporate Hong Kong into the mainland, right? You know, the sort of whole idea behind one China policy, right? They want to incorporate the entirety of the land. And, you know, the one party sort of two systems things was always supposed to be like a temporary solution for them. They you know, probably weren't a big fan of the fact that they have to they'd had to give up, some form of control. Because again, that's what it's really all about to begin with. It's about maintenance of the hierarchy. The party must always be on top. That's why, generally speaking, a lot of people say that China is fascist. And I agree with this sort of sentiment, this idea that they are fascistic. Because again, the way that they sort of pursue their policies and maintain their system of control is first and foremost through maintenance of hierarchies of control, with the party at the top. Instead of like private capital owners or like white people at the top, as like say what the US would want to do, it's about the main state apparatus, the party, first and foremost. Keep in mind, this is also the same party that cracks down on Marxist trade unions all the fucking time. And you and like MLs are like okay with that for some reason. Okay.
Way or another, Hong Kong will slowly lose the very things that make it special. After Beijing imposed the national security law, its allies were quick to highlight similar laws around the world. Hong Kong, they said, was just becoming more like the rest of the world. In a way, they were right. That, after all, is what those of us who love Hong Kong fear the most. In 2020...
Again, and that is exactly why China is trying to crack down as hard as it is in the way that it is. They do not want Hong Kong to look like the rest of the broader white Western world. Because again, that can potentially cause dissent in the minds of other people. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm going to make a quick bet on this. What is the likelihood that your average Chinese citizen has a very hard time being able to get into Hong Kong? What's like the likelihood of that happening? Now you could say like, you know, hey, oh, this is all, you're just saying that because like you're like parroting like CIA talking points and like propaganda. But I ask you the same question again, like why then has the Chinese Communist Party cracked down on Marxist trade unions? Why have they not cracked down more on their billionaires? You know, if they're communist or socialist, shouldn't they be trying to reappropriate the wealth of all the fucking billionaires and millionaires? You expect me to believe that this is a socialist fucking utopia where there can be millionaires and billionaires? I'm expected to believe that? Get the fuck out of here with this nonsense. And also the fucking social repression that they have of many of the minorities that live within China. I rightfully call out when the US does it all the time. I shit on the fucking state of the US all the time when they go after minorities, just blackbag them for supporting Palestine. Or for just existing. I have those videos in my fucking video catalog. You can see them. But like, I'm supposed to turn a blind eye to when China is doing it. Get the fuck out of here.
2021, the Hong Kong government replaced public school curriculum that taught critical thinking and problem-solving skills with a new course emphasizing patriotic rote memorization. And frankly, I can think of no better endorsement of the former.
Literally, like, fucking military indoctrination. Again, this is the exact same shit that they do in America. And I'm supposed to be okay with this because it's China doing it. Yeah, not critical thinking. The kids will figure us out. CCP. What does every fucking authoritarian country love to crack down on constantly? Education, because it gives you the skills and abilities to, you know, wait a minute. Hold on. There might be something wrong with the system.
The exact skills taught by today's sponsor, Brilliant.
Okay, well, I don't care about the sponsor. Alright, it's just a sponsor for the rest of the way through. Alright, we're done with the video. Whoa, who would have thought that an authoritarian fucking hellhole like China was actually pretty bad? Not socialist at all. and basically acts in a lot of the exact same ways as America. Crazy. Like, I know that I'm asking a lot for Marxist-Leninists here, you know, because this is mostly what I'm trying to point out to, right? How do you people not fucking see the just blatant fucking hypocrisy? And you people are still willing to fucking defend China. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. How on earth is this really supposed to be like a standard that should be fucking adhered to? Because they're not America. And honestly, this is why I've constantly said America bad is an extremely bad fucking political philosophy. It is weak and stupid and ineffective. It lets fucking authoritarian fucking hellholes like China be able to get away with shit like that. And I'm supposed to be okay with that? Okay, sure, man. Well, in conclusion, who would have thought that who would have thought that China is maintaining a lucrative real estate income business using Hong Kong as a fucking speculative tax haven in order to make money for the party coffers. I thought we were supposed to be against the state running private fucking property. Wait, I thought this was a bad thing. I thought we cared about abolishing the commodity form and money. I thought you people were supposed to be Marxists. But, you know, China does a little bit of speculative, speculative real estate bubble creation. Who cares? And we know that China has a big housing problem throughout the entirety of the country. We know this. We know this. The ghost cities, Hong Kong. Yet what they're going to do instead, if the people try to rise up and say like, hey, you know, maybe we should do something about this, they're going to appoint fucking secret courts to extradite people if they're saying things that are seditious. Okay, whatever the fuck that means. And like I said before, you would correctly have a problem if America were to do something like that. That would be a correct thing to complain about. But you don't have a problem about it with China. Says a lot about your principles and standards.